Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It is me, Crystal Divine, and I am here today with another video for you guys. Today I'm going to inform you guys on medical interventions. This video is part 1 and it's only going to focus on medical interventions to induce a woman's labor. I wanted to just start off with telling you what medical interventions are so you can understand why they are so important. The definition of the word intervention is interfering, interceding, or intervening with the possible outcomes of a situation. So if a woman is in labor and the medical team is propositioning a medical procedure to modify the outcome, that is an example of a medical intervention. Whenever a woman is being propositioned for a medical intervention, what we need to do in that moment is just take a second, take it back and ask ourselves, is this necessary? Number one, is it a healthy option for me or my baby? And number 3, what are the alternatives? From the minute that a woman, an expectant mother going into labor, slips on a hospital gown, it is the hospital's intent to control the outcome of her labor. So let's be clear, hospitals are a business, and that business makes billions of dollars off of people's illnesses rather than their health. Hospitals do not profit from women having natural birth experiences in their facilities. This is why they pressure us to medically intervene in our birth experience and do not support us when we want to have a natural birth experience. It's also time that we take back control of our birth experiences because we're putting the decisions into the hands of people who care more about profit than our well-being. So the medical interventions that I'm going to talk about today are not always necessary and can definitely be avoided. And if they are not avoided, it can lead to serious complications throughout your birth experience. Let's just start with a due date. A due date is only a 5% chance of being accurate. It is basically an estimate. So I encourage women to look at their due date as more of a due season or even a due month. Physicians will have us believe that once a woman becomes over 40 weeks pregnant, that she's overdue. But naturally, women give birth anywhere between 37 to 42 weeks. A lot of women allow and give consent for physicians to induce their labor, just because they're over 40 weeks and they're quote unquote overdue. That is not a medical reason to induce our labor. If we're going to induce our labor, it needs to be a solid medical reason why. Over the years, physicians have even changed drastically the amount of time that they're willing to recommend a woman to stay pregnant. And that's another thing that women do not realize, is that we have to give our consent before they can proceed with inducing our labor. Now, granted, there are situations where a woman's labor may need to be induced based off of their medical history or complications they have maybe been having through their birth. That's totally different because that's a medical reason to induce a woman's labor. What I'm referring to is physicians inducing women's labor for no medical reason at all. So we must pay attention and be very aware of how and when and why physicians are recommending that we induce our labors. Not only do you want to be more safe than sorry, you don't want to start off inducing your labor because that just opens the door for physicians to do even more medical interventions during your labor. In this video, I'm only going to focus on 3 methods used to induce a woman's labor. And the first one I'm going to talk about is a procedure called stripping the membranes. Stripping the membranes is basically a more intense version of checking a woman's cervix. It can be done as early as 41 weeks, as soon as a woman becomes overdue, or it can even be done when a woman is in labor and her water has not broken yet. It basically involves filling around the cervix to separate the membranes that connect the amniotic sac to the wall of the uterus. Unfortunately, a lot of women experience membrane sweeps without their knowledge of it ever being done in prenatal appointments or even while they are during labor, because it is being described as just checking your cervix to see how far you have dilated. The only difference between the two procedures is that instead of just using your fingers to measure the cervix, when you are stripping the membranes, you use your fingers to press firmly in a circular motion, and that is how you sweep or strip the membranes. Labor cannot begin until your cervix begins to dilate. So opening or separating the membranes is a form of induction because it releases a hormone that may help to dilate and get labor started. Not all physicians will opt out to use this method because it is not a guarantee that it will work, and it can be very painful for the woman. The side effects of having your membranes swept is mild bleeding, cramping, and of course the discomfort of the procedure. And it can also cause irregular contractions, and that's basically when you have contractions but it doesn't begin to progress. There is also the risk that bacteria will weaken the membranes, and that could cause them to rupture prematurely. If that happens, then the seal that protects your baby from bacteria, infections, that seal will be broken, and there will be nothing there to prevent your baby from catching bacteria, infections for the remainder of your labor. Needless to say, that opens up the window for even more medical interventions, and especially if your baby happens to catch an infection during labor. So bottom line, the stripping of the membranes is a risk, and it can cause your water to break prematurely, and your physician should let you know all the risks as well as the benefits of proceeding with this procedure. Definitely they should let you know before they do it, and that way you have the option to give your consent and just decide if that is a risk you are willing to take. Something that a lot of women don't know is that hospitals run on a time schedule. They like women to get in, give birth, and get out by a certain time frame. So if they're already inducing your labor and things are not progressing as fast as they want to, there's another reason for them to want to interfere and give more medical interventions to speed up the process. Now, if a woman's labor is not progressing as fast as the physicians would like it to be or intended it to be, even if stripping the membranes has not been done at this point, their next step would be to admit you into the hospital for further methods of induction. Now, if you're already in the hospital and stripping the membranes has not jump-started things, then the physicians will likely want to opt for a more immediate approach, which brings me to the second method of medical interventions to induce a woman's labor that I want to talk about today, and that is suppositories. Suppositories, pills, or even they come in the form of a gel that you rub onto the outer area of the vagina. The suppositories are inserted into the vagina. The suppositories or gels have a hormone in it that helps to ripen the cervix and get labor started by getting the cervix to dilate. The method of inductions that physicians will choose ultimately depends on the condition of the cervix and what they feel will be the most effective at that time. The last medical intervention that physicians would use to induce a woman's labor that I'm going to talk about in this video is called the Foley bulb. The Foley bulb is also known as a catheter balloon, and when used to induce a woman's labor, the physician basically inserts a deflated balloon into the cervix. And once it is inside the womb, the physicians will use a saline solution to inflate the balloon. And this causes an enormous amount of pressure and encourages dilation. This procedure forces the cervix to open and begin to dilate, and it is just very painful procedure. And the thing about inductions that we have to realize is that when we induce our labors, we are basically forcing our babies to come out before they are ready. If there is no need to go through these extreme measures to induce your labor, then just don't do it. It's not worth the risk. There are plenty of natural techniques to give your baby a little bit of encouragement that you're ready for them to come out. I even wrote a blog on some of the natural techniques that I use, so make sure you click the link in the description box below so you can go check that out. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to Indigenous Lifestyle Vlogs. Peace and love to you all. Make sure that you guys like, comment, and subscribe below. As always, I have the link to my website in the description box below, where there's even more detailed information about medical intervention. If you haven't already, hit the bell so you can be alerted when I post my next video. I am going to do a part 2 of medical interventions, and that's going to focus on the medical interventions that can happen during your labor. So, once again, thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, peace and love.